Salutations, Imperial citizens and battle brothers. I am Brother Tobias, and I have awoken to terrible news. The points are out. The Munitorum field manual has gotten its October 16th points update. We have new points for the game of Warhammer 40k, and I have to review them and tell you why I think this is a disaster for Space Marines as a faction, with a few positive outliers I will mention in due time. So, how about we just jump right in? This time I have decided I will just look at the Space Marine points in detail, because last time when we read through the entire document, I think the video went on for a bit too long, so I've decided let's look at the Space Marine points and I will give a small summary of anything important that happened elsewhere. So, we have a few point decreases. The Ballistus Dreadnought goes down to 130, that is a 10-point drop. The Captain in Phobos armor goes down to 70 points. That's a 10-point drop. Heavy Intercessors go down by 5 points to 95. The Invader ATV goes from 70 points to 60 points. The Invictor Tactical Warsuit goes from 140 to 125. That's a 15-point drop. That's genuinely not bad. Terminators go down another 5 points. I'm pretty sure they were 175 before, per 5. Reavers going down to 75 points. So they are now the cheapest per point body you can buy in the Codex. Robute Guilliman goes down to 285. That is a 60-point drop. I'm pretty sure he was 360. That's a 55... No, that is a 75-point drop. That is an insane decrease. I think he was like 360 or something. So that is an insane points drop for Robute Guilliman, and very, very impactful for Ultramarine players in specific. Terminator Assault Squad goes down to 180. I think that is 5 points too. I think they were at 185. All the Storm Speeders go down. The Hail Strike goes down by 15. The Hammer Strike by 35. And the Thunder Strike by 10. No, wait, the Hammer Strike was 150. So the Hammer Strike goes down by 25, the Thunder Strike by 10, and the Hail Strike by 15. That's what it is. Suppressors down to 75. That's a 10-point drop, which is appreciated because they are kind of bad. So, what goes up? The Apothecary Biologist goes from 55 to 70 points. That is a plus 15. Assault Intercessors with jump packs go up to 90 from 85. Eradicators go from 95 to 100. Vanguard Veterans with jump packs go up to 110, and they were at 105, so that's a 5-point increase. The Gladius Task Force Fire Discipline Enhancement goes up to 40 points. And the Stormlands Task Force Hunter's Instinct enhancement goes up to 25. So let's go through this in order. Hunter's Instinct going up doesn't matter because this is a Space Wolves nerf. Because nobody else uses the Stormlands Task Force, it's just not good enough. So this is a terrible thing. So what was the purpose of this nerf? Dark Angels using the Gladius detachments were one of the best armies in the game. I would say the second or third best army in the game. The win rate wasn't that amazing, but it was really good at being in the top 3 or top 2 of big Grand Tournaments, GTs, Opens. The Dark Angels Gladius was excellent. So they nerfed Apothecary, Biologist, and Eradicators and Fire Discipline, because that is the big combo that allows Space Marines to do damage. We ran the same combo in my Gladius video. If you want to look at that, I'll put it right here if I can. So we ran this combo. Well, we have been running this combo since forever. Ever since Aggressors got raised to 120 from 110, I think. And yeah, this is a big deal, because this means, in addition to the other Dark Angels nerfs, which is the Deathwing Knights going up and Azrael going up a bit. Azrael could go up to 140, you would still take him, but Deathwing Knights going up to 250 is a big deal. And this entire combo now going up 20, 25, 35 points for that unit. That is a big deal. That's a really, really big deal. I am shocked, because this doesn't just affect Dark Angels. This also affects every other Space Marine army, because Eradicators are our only consistent way to deal with a vehicle. Gladiator Lancers are unreliable. Devastators are not good. Desolation Marines are unplayable. They're still in the dumpster. They're really, really bad. And losing Eradicators, not only the big unit in Gladius, which is now 35 points up, also losing the small units going up by 5 per pip. That is a big deal. Now, will you still take them? The answer is yes, because you kind of have to. Because Chaos Knights just got decreases on almost everything. They got decreases on their mandatory character and on the Brigand, which means you will see Chaos Knights. And Sisters got nerfed. Battle Sisters got nerfed, so you will see more Chaos Knights. And Chaos Knights are a problem for Space Marines. You need to kill them, and the only way to do that is with Eradicators, in my experience. This is really bad. This is a bad day for Space Marines, because we now don't have... we now lose the damage we used to have. And it wasn't that good. Like, it was good. Like, that one unit did damage and everything else was, like, okay. And now we're down on the damage. The Vanguard Veterans going up and the Assault Intercessors with jump packs going up. This is purely a nerf to Blood Angels, but the most misguided nerf I have ever seen, because Assault Intercessors with jump packs and Vanguard Veterans with jump packs were really good in Blood Angels, because they get the +2 strength, +1 attack in their Sons of Sanguinius or their Liberator Assault Force detachment, which makes them way better than they are in the base codex. But Vanguard Veterans were only seeing play because they had in the index, Blood Angels had the Sanguinius Priest with a jump pack. If that unit got cut from the codex, so that character doesn't exist, and it gave the unit a 5-up Feel No Pain and +1 AP, which was a big deal, because they are AP 1, they only have like 4 attacks, they don't have any defense beside their 4-up invuln. So without this character, that unit didn't see any play. Nobody was playtesting with Vanguard Veterans. So this is actually punishing Raven Guard players who like to run Shrike, and this is also punishing Firestorm players who like to put a captain in that squad and then give them reroll wounds with Vulcan in the Firestorm to get the devastating wounds. So this is a nerf to the codex, and it was supposed to be a nerf to Blood Angels, and they don't care, because in their new codex, they're not using these guys. And Sanguinary Guard went from 300 in the book to 270, which means you probably take like 18 of them, which is bad. So, where do we stand with this? I think Space Marines are in trouble. The Vanguard Spearhead, in the way I was using the list, went up 45 points, which is bad, because the list was, in my opinion, 100 points too expensive. And now it is even more expensive, so that doesn't do anything. You're not gonna take... I think Assault Intercessors with jump packs now go down in stock. You don't use these guys as cheap action units anymore. You might go back to Scouts, or you take Incursors, and you just have to be more careful with your movement. You have to pre-measure your 9 inches away from the table edges and your 3 inches away from the center of the board, and you just have to do something like this. I think Incursors are actually, Incursors are actually way better than I put them on the tier list. I think that unit is really solid. And the Invader ATV looks pretty interesting. Maybe you can start running a bunch of ATVs as your skirmish pieces, because they are really, really cheap and they move 14 inches. So you can use these guys to do actions. That is not bad, and they come with a multi-melter. I'm curious about the Invader ATV. That one might be the dark horse of this thing. Brutale Ballistus going to 130 is like fine. I think the Brutalis, I think the Ballistus Dreadnought is better than the Lancer right now, because it just survives more shooting than the Lancer, and both of them are unreliable for actual damage. So I think the Ballistus Dreadnought going down might actually be what you take if you just want something that can shoot further than 24 inches. The Captain in 4-boss armor is completely useless. You will never use this model. This doesn't matter what they put the points in. The same thing applies to the Reavers. 5 Reavers for 75, you are never taking these guys over Scouts. Scouts are just better for 10 points cheaper. It is... Even if they were the same cost, I would still take Scouts. Scouts have Scout, Infiltrate, and they go into reserves and come back out. That is way better than just having Deep Strike on 5 random Space Marines. You can get that for cheaper and for the same cost on Suppressors, actually. Where are they? There they are. Suppressors for 75. This is pretty interesting, actually. I think that is an interesting change, because Suppressors are not good. They have an okay gun with bad AP, and they hit on 4s, which is bad. But they do the job of the Assault Intercessors with jump packs, because they move 12 inches to do actions, and they do have the Deep Strike keyword. So I think you could genuinely consider Suppressors now, just as an action unit. Don't think they will actually do anything. Their ability with the -1 to hit tag is not good. Their movement is really good. Their gun is like really unreliable. I had these guys fail to kill 4 Voidsmen from the Agent's Codex, so holding an objective before. Like, they are so unreliable for damage, but they do actions really well, and 3 40mm bases actually need less of a footprint than 5 32mm bases. That's how math works. So that is actually pretty good. So that is the thing. Terminators, I don't look at Terminators. I think they're still bad. Until we get a buff to the first company detachments, you don't want to use Terminators. I think they're not good. The Storm Speeders. This one is interesting. I think the Thunderstrike is out of the conversation because 150 is still too much. You can still almost buy a second Gladiator, and you have to ask yourself, would you rather have 2 Gladiators shooting at a tank, or would you rather have 1 Gladiator with +1 to wound? And the answer is very, very, very one-sidedly, you want the 2 Gladiators. If Chaos Knights actually pop off, you might take one just to tag one of the dogs with the +1 to wound, and then you shower it in AP nothing lethal hits or something. That is what happens. The Hammer Strike is really interesting at 125. The Hammer Strike, I always look at that thing, because Ignore Cover is probably the best buff in this game for a shooting army. Because, man, Ignore Cover, it is effectively +2 AP in a lot of cases, because you are AP 1 and they don't care. And if you ignore cover, not only does their save not go up, but their save actually goes down now. So yeah, mathematically it is always a +1 AP, but it usually feels like a +2 AP. Ignore cover is a big deal. It is a big deal. For the same reason, the Hail Strike, it just gives you +1 AP against an infantry unit. So if you still think that a lot of Deathwing Knights or Crusader squads or something like that is running around, then the Hail Strike will do the same job as the Hammer Strike. It can do it from further away because the guns have more range, but I think the Hammer Strike is the best Storm Speeder. And however, the reason why I think all three of these are not great is because the only one that actually does something against Chaos Demons is the Thunder Strike, and I don't think the Thunder Strike is very good. I think it's not reliable enough to do stuff. It hits on a 2, which is pretty good, but I think Chaos Demons are a massive problem for Space Marines. You need to really go anti-demons with your army building in order to try and have a chance against them, and none of these 2 speeders here help. So maybe the Thunder Strike is the best one. I wouldn't know. Yeah, Reavers are bad. So let's talk about Robute Gilliman. Gilliman going down this much is genuinely really good. Gilliman was almost good enough to play him. There are a lot of factors here. Number one, you can't advance and grenade anymore, which is good because one of the best ways to deal with Gilliman was just to advance next to him and throw a grenade, because he has no defense against mortal wounds or death wounds. So it is easier to survive. Gilliman can walk through walls now, which means Gilliman can just heroic intervention for 0 CP through a wall and just start swinging, which is good. Gilliman is the best melee model in the Codex, second by Monius Calgar, but this guy is really, really good. And the problem was always he was too easy to kill, because the free-up revive is not reliable, and there's no mortal wound defense, unlike the Lion, with the fight first and the free-up invuln. So Gilliman was really frail for a model that was so expensive, but now, at the same cost of a Land Raider Redeemer, I honestly think this is worth it. I definitely have to look at some Space Marine stuff and see what happens. Yeah, the Captain is bad. As I said, Outriders, the only change is the ATV you attach to them is cheaper, but you don't do that, you just run the ATV up here. The Invictor Tactical Warsuit. I'm not sure. This thing is really bad, but if it's this cheap, it might actually do something. Let's think about this. This thing comes with a flamethrower, so it doesn't get hurt by a lack of Oath of Moment. That is good. It has a scout move pre-game, so you can stage it up into the midboard. And it has strength 14, which actually means a lot of things. The Redemptor Dreadnought wounds on a 4. This thing wounds on a 3-up. It wounds everything in the game on 3-up, I think. Pretty much. On the downside, it is not that fast. It moves like 9 inches. And it has toughness 8 with a 3-up save, so it is really easy to kill. Its special rule is pretty bad. If you shoot a Phobos unit, it shoots back. I don't think it triggers itself, so if you shoot it, it doesn't shoot back. You would have to run 2 of them next to each other. I don't think they're good, but I'm saying that because they were never good in this edition. Maybe I should do some testing, because 125 is pretty cheap. Maybe you take it in Iron Storm, and you actually run the minigun with the damage 3, but that's also not that good. Yeah, I don't know what to do. Heavy Intercessors going down is appreciated. I don't know how much that matters, but if you are a Heavy Intercessor fan, that is a thing that can happen. But there's something... I would normally say, ooh, a Battle Line unit going down is an interesting thing, but it is not, because now we go to part 2 of what this is. We have the Pariah Nexus Tournament Companion, and we have a few changes here. Number 1, there are just some stuff here, some clarifications. Secret missions. Secret missions got nerfed, which in the 5th battle round, you cannot score primary points. So this means you cannot purposely score zeros in the first 2 turns and then pick the secret mission and the comeback to get your 40 on primary. That doesn't work anymore. So that is a shame. This makes it really unlikely for Space Marine lists to build into Battle Line anymore, because the easiest secret mission to do is War of Attrition. But War of Attrition is you can stop it if you play Chaos Knights or like Genestealer cults really easily, and now you have to actually play the game, so you should use that Battle Line unit you were hiding until the end of the game. I think this is a slight nerf to secret missions. It doesn't make them invalid, but I don't think I will build a Battle Line unit into my lists anymore, depending on the mission. I would have to see. We have a few secondary mission erratas. Recover assets and assassination are the same, but and Call the Horde too. But we have a thing here: Storm Hostile Objective. You can now score the first part of it on turn 1. So if you draw a Storm Hostile Objective, previously you were allowed to keep it if you draw it in turn 1, but you couldn't score it. And that was just silly, because why would you keep something you can't score? So now you can actually score it on turn 1, which is really good if you go second. This is a big buff to the player going second, and going second is usually weaker than going first, so this is a good buff here. Yeah, you can't get the other one for your opponent controls 0 markers, and this is really good that Games Workshop thought about that, because if they made both of these achievable turn 1, your opponent would get punished for forgetting to move something onto their home objective in deployment. Which on some of deployments, it's actually easy to see the enemy home objective, like just fully. It is on some layouts, it is really easy to see it, and you know, sometimes you just don't deploy things on the objective and you just move onto it. And if this happened and you draw this turn 1 and your opponent has 0 objectives, you're like, oh well, I get this. So, good buff. So, Scorched Earth, that one is the same. We have 2 updates for one for Linchpin primary and one for Hidden Supplies mission rule. The Hidden Supplies change was already in an errata, but now it is just part of the card where you move the objective towards the corner that doesn't have a deployment zone, and if there are deployment zones in every corner, because you play like Dawn of War or Sweeping Engagement, you instead roll off and then the winner decides which corner they go into. I'm not a big fan of this because it makes that roll off really rough, but hey, it was already a rule and now it is just part of the card and you don't have to look for it in this document. Linchpin got a nerf, which was really appreciated because now Linchpin is maxed out at 15 per turn. Previously, Linchpin wasn't maxed out, so if you had the last turn of the game and you would walk onto every objective on the board, you would get a 23-point swing. It was crazy. You could get 23 points in one turn off of this. And usually you would get like 18 in one turn. If you were winning and you just held on to the fort. This was a really good mission for armies that dirtle around and don't play the game. And it was a really bad mission for armies that have to go aggressive. And that's that. So yeah, those are the changes here. And there's also some clarifications here. Regarding the Marked for Death secondary, this one, as someone who is a judge at events, this has come up really often, questions about Marked for Death, and now it explicitly says, if you have a unit with a character in it, and you destroy only the unit but not the character, you don't get the Marked for Death points. Or if you assassinate the character with precision, the unit doesn't count as destroyed. You have to destroy the entire unit, including the character. If there are 2 characters in it, you have to kill one of them, so you can't metagame it by just running 2 leaders to counter this card. So this is a thing. You can select the leader inside the unit to precision it. That is a thing. You can't perform the terraform action on an objective that was already terraformed. Fun fact, I have never played terraform. I have played a lot of games of Pariah Nexus. This mission has never come up. I have never played terraform. And then there is some stuff where the timing question, when does that happen? It happens before you get the first turn. So before you know who starts, you do all of that. So this is a nerf to the Vanguard again, because secret missions are worse, but in all honesty, I don't mind, because man, I hate the battle line tax. Battle line units are so bad, and I don't want to take them. I really don't want to take the battle line units. They are so bad. Like, having played the game for a bit, the only battle line unit in Space Marines I actually like are the Assault Intercessors, because they give your captain reroll once to wound, and this is just that. We have some Space Marine specific FAQs here. So we have one buff. We have one big buff. Uriel Ventress. Unorthodox strategy. So previously Uriel Ventress had a rule that says you can use stratagems while battle shocked, and you can use a stratagem you have already used again. And since the data slate said you can no longer use stratagems twice unless they are specifically called out, this meant Uriel Ventress' only rule was he can use stratagems while battle shocked, which was a worthless rule. However, now you have Uriel Ventress, unorthodox strategist. Uriel Ventress makes a stratagem within 12 inches of him cost 1 more for your opponent. So Uriel now comes with a baked-in Vect. This is actually a really, really good rule to have. So it calls out that this doesn't stack with other abilities that increase the cost of stratagems. So I've seen a few people in the Discord, not calling out any names, talking, oh, you can double and triple Vect now. And yes, you can, but it doesn't stack with the other ones. So you don't get more than -1 CP. So I don't know how effective this is. This has 2 applications, in my opinion. So first, you can run Uriel Ventress in a unit of Blade Guard veterans or Assault Intercessors and use them as a melee unit that can't be interrupted into. Because your opponent is unlikely to pay 3 command points for counteroffensive, and Uriel is a decent combat character. Like, he's worse than a captain, but not by much, actually. He's not worse than a captain by much. And you always get this rule. So this basically means if you charge, you get your benefits, and that's it. That's pretty good. I really like that. Really, really good. The second application, and this is a Vanguard specific one, you might actually just not take a lieutenant with the enhancement anymore, and you just take Uriel Ventress by himself. Just solo Uriel, put him behind a wall, beat a Vect, just put him behind a wall, and you can save 100 points from taking the lieutenant. You just run solo Uriel, and you're just gonna be happy about it. Just you know what? I don't even care about anything anymore. Just cut the lieutenant, run solo Uriel. This might actually be what you do now. Maybe. Like, this is what I'm thinking about. Second, we have some stuff here. The full boss lieutenant can now join if you do some like this is just some clarification, no real changes. Same with the Desolators. Desolation Marines got nerfed, which is pretty funny. They lose the ability to ignore modifiers for the indirect penalty, but that really doesn't matter because you can only hit on a 4 or higher if you shoot indirect. So getting that modifier ignore for that penalty doesn't really matter. So you get -1 to hit, and you would ignore the -1 to hit, but you can only hit on a 4, so this didn't matter. So This was a nerf, but it doesn't matter. Not only because Desolation Marines are unplayable, but also because it doesn't matter. There are some nerfs here, actually. So first, a clarification. If you have a captain in reserve, you can rapid ingress for free. And a clarification for the Vanguard. Vanguard W. If you put a mine on an objective, you use Deadly Price to make an objective sticky, and you put the Mortal Wound thing on it. The Mortal Wound thing stays on the objective until the end of the game. It doesn't activate for as long as your opponent controls it, but that is insanely good. That is really good, because it really encourages you to fight for the objectives, because you have to think about this. If your 5 Space Marine scouts get charged by, let's say, 5 striking scorpions, and they don't roll too hard, and they kill like 3 scouts, and they take the objectives from you, but they lose like 2 of the scorpions to the mine, then you are like 2 against 3, and then you hit them back, and then you have the objective, and now you just fall back out of combat, you control the objective, and if that scorpion moves anywhere, it explodes. That is really, really good. I like this. It's a minuscule change, but it's a really good change. If a Hellblaster is destroyed by anything other than an attack, can that model use its For the Chapter ability? That is the Shoot on Death ability, and the answer is no. I never liked Hellblasters. They are bad. If you ever enter any Hellblaster math into Unit Crunch, they do not perform. They don't kill a tank reliably. They don't kill a unit of Terminators reliably. They don't do a single thing outside of kill other 2 wound models reliably. And the problem with Hellblasters was always, if you want to do their one job, you have to overcharge, and then you lose 2 or 3 models per activation. So this is a nerf for Hellblasters. So in addition to all the units that didn't need to get nerfed, we got nerfed on Desolation Marines and Hellblasters, of all things. Absolutely crazy. So where does that lead us? Are Space Marines dead? Yes, but in the article from Warhammer Community, they said, our next update later this year will bring a balanced data slate along with an updated field manual, as well as future additions that may be needed to FAQ. We are already well underway with testing the upcoming updates, making changes that are designed to tackle some key areas we want to address. Specifically, we are looking at Miracle Dice usage and generation, Cold Ambush mechanics, and making a better experience for Codex Space Marine players, to name just a few. So this means the next data slate will include buffs specifically for people who use Codex Space Marines and not the supplements. I don't like this at all. I don't think you should have done this without doing the other thing. So you should have just left Space Marines where they are, because they were not doing really well. Space Marines had the lowest win rate of all the factions in this game. And outside of win rates, because I don't think win rates are everything, they don't place in tournaments a whole lot. We had one person with a Firestorm win a GT. We had one person with, like, we had a few people with, like, a Rogue Gladius putting in top 4s or something, but other than that, Space Marines have been in the dumpster. It is all Dark Angels, Black Templars, Blood Angels. All of these chapters are performing really well, and all of them are performing well because they are using rules and units from our codex, and because of that they got nerfed, and now we are the collateral damage here. The core thing, why I think this wasn't well thought out at all, is actually not any of the things that happened, it is the thing that didn't happen. Where are they? I'm looking for Eliminators. Here they are. Eliminator Squad. 3 models, 85 points. Eliminators are not a good unit. They are an okay unit, they always had their moments, and they were basically just a scoring unit. which could occasionally throw a bunch of damage into a target with the damage-free last Fusel stuff and the move and shoot, but they were primarily a scoring unit. Eliminators went up to 85 points a few months ago, I think 6 months ago, because there was an interaction where you could use your Fire and Fate to move your Eliminators back into your transport and then shoot from the firing deck of your transport. So you would essentially double the amount of shots you would get out of the Eliminators, and if you were in the Iron Storm, you would also double the rerolls, because each unit gets its own reroll, so that would happen. So, they made them more expensive because of this trick. Then, 3 months later, they also changed the rules, so this trick doesn't work. So the reason why this unit went up in points got nerfed, but the unit still stays up in points. This to me reads as a very obvious sign that somebody in the rules team does not care about Space Marines. Maybe they care next update when they do those promised changes, but right now whoever made these changes only looked at Dark Angels are doing well, let's nerf Dark Angels. Someone doesn't care about Space Marines. At all. And that makes me sad. Because I play Space Marines and I was intending to go to a big 6-round event over a weekend at the end of October, and now I don't think I'm gonna go. I might just stay home and play Magic the Gathering or something. I have no desire to play with what I'm seeing right here, because our damage got nerfed. Nothing relevant went down in points, except for Robute Gilliman, who is a big deal, to be fair, but yeah, I don't know. This leaves me a bit down. I have to do some stuff here. I think Uriel Ventress rules change and Gilliman have some potential. I don't know where to go from here, but hey, we have to go somewhere. With that said, that was my review for the points. Courage and honor, Battle Brothers. We stay steadfast through the worst times, and we will come back. We will always come back.